Okay, I think we're just about ready to go.
Somebody's had their coffee.
Instead of stand by, sit near. How about that? I don't know what the heck it is. It's not my medication because, you know, there is no medication for this. Well, two significant pieces of news that I just heard. Number one is that my home state of Arizona, God,
Oh no.
just put to death a human being in their lethal injection chamber.
Oh.
And the United States has finally reached 1 million deaths from COVID.
Oh.
Exciting times, ladies and gentlemen. Good grief.
Yeah.
Stop the world. I am getting off. I don't want to get off. I'm getting off. All right. Stand by. Here we go.
Community. What follows is a conversation of an artist's experience about the artist's response to trying times, creativity, reinvention, recovery, and of course, flexibility, which is in fact the narrative of
In
our
3,
present time.
2, 1. You are live.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Maggie Yates filling in for Elizabeth Stewart this fine Friday morning. Today, we're going to talk about some of the really interesting and fantastic performances that are coming up in Santa Barbara in the next weekend and the next week. My guests include a director, a performer, and a playwright, so we'll get to talk about the theatrical process from several different angles today. It's very exciting. The first thing we're going to talk about is Vincent, which is coming up at Ensemble Theater Company. And this is a show that was presented in collaboration with the special exhibition at the Museum of Art through Vincent's eyes, Vincent van Gogh and his sources. And you can see this show this Sunday at 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock at Ensemble Theater. And you can see the Van Gogh exhibit through the 22nd. So we are going to talk today to the director of this show, Brian McDonald. Hi, Brian, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you. It's great to hear about this show. So why don't we start by you just telling me about the play? What is the main narrative thread?
So this particular piece called Vincent was actually written by Leonard Nimoy.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he actually wrote it and toured with it for several years. It's actually based on another play called Van Gogh. And this takes place 2 weeks after Vincent's death, after his funeral. And this is his brother, Theo, who at the time of the funeral was so heartbroken that he just couldn't speak. He didn't even have the words to say whatever he felt he needed to say. And this is him basically addressing a group of people at a lecture hall, fictitious lecture hall, and sharing, finally being able to articulate how he feels that he wants, Vincent to be remembered. And it is based on over 500 letters that he and his brother had written back and forth over the years. And so it's really interesting because it's informative without being boring, and just the facts, ma'am. It has a real heart and an emotional through line. I find it also really funny. There's a lot of stories and things like that, anecdotes that I didn't know about Vincent van Gogh. And it has a very moving performance by Charles Pasternak, who masterfully, really bears his soul on stage as Theo. And so, yeah, the audiences at the museum enjoyed it so thoroughly. They wanted us to do it again. And for people that didn't get a chance to see it, we looked at the calendar, found some time to produce it now at the new Vic, as you said. And so we're really excited to revisit the piece.
That's great. Now, I have a question about how this came about. Did Ensemble suggest a companion piece to the exhibit, or did the museum suggest a collaboration?
Yeah, it was the museum that approached, I believe it was Patty Hicks, who's their education director at the museum, approached Jonathan and asked him if we were interested in collaborating. I think they had reached out to several organizations. Jonathan found this play and thought it would be something that we might want to participate in, and approached me about directing it and kind of spearheading it. And so that's how that came about. We, like I said, decided to do it at the museum first. And I reached out to Charles Pasternak, who I had never met, but I had seen his work and was familiar with him. And once we started rehearsals on it, it was quite clear that we just fell in love with the piece. And hearing Charles read it for me over Zoom at our first rehearsal, I even was, emotionally engaged at that point,
Excellent.
And what was supposed to originally just be a reading of this piece quickly turned into Charles saying, look, I just feel like I need to memorize this and I really need to give it everything I've got. And I felt the same. So we really pulled out all the stops and gave it as much of a full production at the museum as we could, with some technical limitations.
Sure.
But now we get to sort of give it a little bit more of a boost with some nice lighting effects. And there's a lot of projections throughout the whole thing. So you get to see a lot of Vincent's work throughout the entire piece that sort of helped tell the story of his life.
That's so interesting. I loved the exhibit at the museum, and I really got a feel for Vincent's work, and it's going to be so interesting to see that represented on stage. What do you think is the fascination with Van Gogh and his work? I mean, his work, and people are so interested in him, years after his death.
Yeah, well, I first came across like Vincent van Gogh through music. Actually, it was Starry Starry Night, that song that and I learned that on the piano and I could sing it. So that was my first introduction into, and then I found, well, who is this guy? And so I just, at a young age, I was in high school at the time. And so I started to look at his stuff, and particularly with Starry Starry Night, I just kind of lost myself in the picture. There's so much to see. And I mean, I think it's different for everybody why they're attracted to his pieces and his story. I mean, there's so many movies and so much that has been talked about. And again, even though there's been all of these other stories and movies told, I still feel like this show adds just that much more to our understanding of Vincent. So I think for me, the pieces that I'm so attracted to are just because they're so dynamic. I mean, they're static and yet they're not. I just feel like I'm constantly, my eyes and my sort of feeling and emotion are just constantly moving through the piece. And like I said, I feel like I get lost in it. And also, it's kind of like unlike anything that anybody else has done.
It is very unique.
It is very unique and very identifiable. Although there are a lot of pieces in his early work that you wouldn't necessarily know. I mean,
Right.
I think that's why the museum exhibit is so fascinating, because you see his influence, or the influence that other artists had on his work and how that developed into really his own voice. And I think true artists are really always struggling to find their true voice. So so it's a great compliment piece for people to have seen the exhibit and also experience the play. I think sort of really balances and complements their experience.
I have to say, I went to the MoMA in New York just a couple of months ago, and that was one of the pieces that was on display, the Starry Night, and it was absolutely packed with people. I mean, you have this entire exhibit about everything, everything that they've got going on at the MoMA. And that was the one that really, really struck people.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. But there is a lot of stuff. There's even early drawings that you get to see, a lot of his early stuff that, stuff that people aren't familiar with that were his paintings. So yeah, I'm excited for people to see it.
That's great. Well, let's go to a quick break. Again, we are at KZSB 1290 AM, FM 96.9. Don't go away.
All right, you are clear. And is it too soon if Van Gogh, were maybe the spokesperson for Verizon to say, "Can you hear me now?" Too soon?
Well, Brian, when we get back, we'll do a quick talk about your experience directing, and then we'll do the giveaway.
Great. Yeah,
We got 2 minutes,
just
basically a 2-minute break.
Okay.
Okay, great. Sorry about all those texts that are popping up. Can you hear that?
You're fine. You're fine. No problem. Just makes it real.
Yeah, actually, all those texts that were coming in were from my actors.
Oh, really? It is real.
Yep.
The struggle is real.
Yeah. When we do the giveaway, they should email me, include their full name, email, and phone.
Okay. Good thinking.
Well, obviously, I'll have their email, but their full name and phone number so I can contact them directly.
Great. Perfect.
Don't
Yeah, I
forget
hope we get
card, security code, and PIN number. I mean, if you're going to go after that much, you might as well go for broke. Okay,
do you
stand
want-
by.
All right.
In 3, 2, 1, you're live.
And we're back. This is Maggie Yates filling in for Elizabeth Stewart. We are here talking with Brian McDonald, the director of Vincent, which is going up at Ensemble Theater Company at the New Vic this Sunday. Now, Brian, we were talking about the effect of Van Gogh's art and his life. Let's talk about the experience of directing a one-person show. How is that unique to directing something with, 10 actors or however many actors?
Yeah, it is a different process. And thankfully, I, as an actor, have had the experience of being in 2 one-person shows. So I know the pressure and, understand really what's going on in that actor's mind and the challenges that they're facing. So for me, being on the other side of things as a director, I think obviously Charles is, a very talented and smart actor. And so for me, it was about supporting him as much as possible and really giving him as much freedom as he can, found his way through the play, and then helping him sort of shape that a little bit and making decisions about it. And then, stepping back and looking at the whole piece itself and the emotional through line of the piece to try and sort of finesse it and keep it clear and things like that. So in a regular piece, there's so many other moving parts and personalities when you have a bunch of different actors that pulling you in a lot of different directions. So this was certainly a lot easier
Yeah.
in some respects. And like I said, it really depends a lot on the actor. And in this case, this is a tour de force performance, and there wasn't really much that I needed to do for him other than to be there and support him in every way I could. Yeah, so that's it. He's memorized the entire thing, which I think is about 35 or so pages long. Maybe 50 pages. I don't know.
Wow. Okay. That's very impressive. It's always so impressive when you get a one-person show and they've memorized this entire thing and they have no one to react off of. It's just them.
It is. It's really, really, really tough. You're up there all alone. It's if you go astray, there's nobody there to save you,
Yeah.
and that is a terrifying feeling. And but it's also exhilarating. It's like you realize that they're there to see you, and whatever happens, it's on you. And there's something really empowering about that as well.
Well, I have an exciting idea. Let's give away some tickets for this performance. It's coming up this Sunday. Again, that is the 15th, and there is a show at 2:00 and a show at 7:00. So for anyone who is interested in seeing this show, you can go ahead and email Brian at bmcdonald, that's B McDonald, at etcsb.org. Just include your name and your phone number so that we can get a hold of you, and we'll give you a pair of tickets to see this incredible show.
Yeah. So we'll give 2 tickets away for the 2:00 and 2 for the 7:00, and first come, first serve. For those that don't have tickets, there are some still available. So just go to our website at etcsb.org, go to special events, and you can reserve your tickets. We are very close to selling out. So if you haven't done that, you really want to catch this, which I hope you do, get on it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. It was great talking to you about the show. I hope
Thanks,
that everybody
Maggie.
gets
It's always
to
a
see it.
pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So next, we are going to be moving on to another show that is coming up that is starting next week. And this is a musical, so a completely different type of show. And I'm talking about the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, which is produced by the theater department at UCSB. This is a musical comedy that centers on a fictional spelling bee. You get a handful of quirky kids who are competing in the bee, and it's run by some equally quirky grown-ups. So we are talking here to a performer in the show, Roni Ragone. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks for being on the show. I'd love to hear about this production.
Yeah, well, it's a super fun show. I've personally loved this show since I was a kid. I'm actually not normally a performer. Normally I focus on writing, but I just love this show so much, so I decided to go for it, and I got in, and it's really, really fun. My favorite thing about this show is I've seen it probably like 4 or 5 different productions of it, but it's never the same because there's a lot of improv in it. And they have guest spellers come in. So literally no show is ever the same, which is super cool. And it makes it really fresh every time. And on the acting side too, you never know what the people who are coming in, like the literal strangers, you never know what they're going to do.
Right. They pull people out of the audience to be
spellers. Yeah.
To be spellers. That's such a good idea. How do you guys deal with the improv aspect of that? Is that difficult?
I mean, we have there are 3 like adults that are consistent characters in the show, and 2 of them focus on giving the words and spelling and all that. Then there's another who's like the comfort counselor, so if a kid loses, it gives them like a juice box and all that. But those 2, they're the main ones who focus on improv, so it's kind of corralled. So really and the person playing Doug Ponch, they're the one who's really guiding all this improv. But we have 2 people who are actually playing that character, and both of them always knock it out of the park, and all of us spellers are always like biting our lips trying not to laugh because it's different every night, so you never know what they're gonna say.
Yeah, you don't know what to expect. That is so fun. So tell me about some of the characters, including your own.
Yeah, the characters are definitely in my opinion, they are the best part of this show. They're all so unique and weird because they're a bunch of kids who love spelling, you're gonna get some weirdos. My character's name is William Barfay, but everyone calls him Barfy, and it makes him really mad. I mean, I would be mad if I was called Barfy.
Yeah.
And basically he's kind of gross and kind of an outcast, but like over time he's just like made himself an outcast because he's kind of just become like a jerk over time, just because he's like, I'm better than you kind of mentality. But he's just such a doofus and he's such a ham, so you just laugh at him because you're like, you are being so much right now. And his special thing is that he spells out the word with his foot. So his song is Magic Foot, where he sings a song praising his magic foot. It's very funny in my opinion. And then there are so many great characters. One of my other favorite characters is Leaf. Leaf Coney Bear is a homeschooled kid who, he makes his own clothes. He loves cats, and he didn't actually make it into the bee. He got like third place, but the other two were busy, so they threw him in, and he's like, I don't know how to do this.
Oh no.
And then there's this character Logan, who her dads are really hard on her. And she has a really prominent lisp, and so everyone makes fun of her. And there's a lot of characters, but they're all very, very unique, and they're just, but you can't help but be like, oh, you're just a kid who's just putting way too much pressure on spelling some words,
Yeah, I do. I love the idea that this is a low stakes for the audience, but very high stakes for the characters. Those kids really want to win this spelling bee, but the people in the audience, it's not a nail biting thing. People can just enjoy the music. They can enjoy the characters. It's going to be super fun. Yeah, absolutely. Now we are going to take another quick break. Again, this is KZSB AM 1290, FM 96.9. When we come back, we will chat a little bit more with Ronnie about spelling bee.
And you're clear. Very good. Very good.
Thank you. So when we come back, Ronnie, we can talk a little bit about, I have some curiosity about, first of all, overall takeaways from the show. What did the characters learn? And also, a little bit about your experience being a student and a performer, and the importance of an education in the arts. So we'll talk a little bit about that, because I think that's an important thing to go through. Hi, Kendrice. Thank you for joining.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk about your piece. It seems really interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the spelling bee. And I've never seen it, so yay.
Oh, good.
It's really fun. It's
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know that like Maggie, I didn't know it was such a an integral show for the actors, low stakes. So is it written in the script that they throw new words at you?
Not at us. We know the set spellers know our words, but the new spellers, I mean, obviously none of them know, but they changed it a lot, so it's always new things.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really, really fun.
Yeah. I wrote a basketball show called Flex, and it's like either they hit the shot or they don't on stage. So yeah, it's that tension. Oh my God, that's genius though. Like with the spelling, that's genius. I love it.
Yeah, I love this show. I mean, like I said, I don't normally perform, but I was like, God, I love this show. I just have to go for it,
Yeah, yeah.
It's so fun, but there's also so many
We are coming back. Stand by. Ian, 3, 2, 1. You're live.
Welcome back. This is Maggie Yates filling in for Elizabeth Stewart. We are talking about theater today. And right now we've got Ronnie on, who is a performer in the Putnam County Spelling Bee, which is coming up at UCSB starting in the next week. Now, Ronnie, what is the overall takeaway from this show? It's kind of a funny musical comedy, but what can people really expect to come away with after seeing this?
Though it is so funny and you'll just laughing yourself crazy the whole time, there are so many like sad real moments where you're like, oh, this 12-year-old's dealing with that. Jeez. And I think a lot of it is I really, even though it takes place mostly just in the spelling bee, I really view it as a coming of age story because there's such an arc with like pretty much all the characters. And this feeling of, it's okay to be an awkward mess, when you're 12 years old, when you're 15, when you're, I'm 22, I'm still an awkward mess, and really finding community. And I think that's a big theme of the show is finding, people you have this weird shared interest and just bonding with them, especially for my character, because in the beginning, he really doesn't have any friends and he's not very nice, but you kind of see him round out over the show, which I think is really sweet. Yeah, but a lot of it is kind of like almost like found family in this weird adolescent time of your life, which I really love.
That's interesting. It reminds me of being a theater kid, because
Yeah.
you have that found family. And I mean, even as an adult, as a theater adult, I definitely find a lot of that community with other theater people. So that leads me into my next question. You are a third year, correct? And you are English and theater doubling.
Yes.
So how is the experience of being a performer while also being a student? Because those are both such heavy things in your life. How do you balance?
Well, it's definitely a lot, but there's such different, whether it's I'm, for English reading Ulysses and then the next hour going in and being a doofus on stage and doing jazz squares or attempting to do jazz squares. I'm not a great dancer, but there's just, though it takes up a lot of time, I have found so much joy in that room with that cast and with the show and with my character. It's kind of a weird release and a kind of this opportunity for us as actors to go back at that time. And when we were these awkward, my character's 13. Gosh, 13 is such a tough age. So for me, it's like this cool way for me to go back and kind of reclaim some of those awkward years in a sense, and in a much safer environment with these new people that I've come to know and love. So yes, it takes up a lot of time, but it doesn't feel like work. I mean, of course you work really hard for it, but it's different than just sitting down and reading a bunch of chapters for something. I don't know anything else I'd rather be doing with my time.
So you are a double major, which is nice. I think that a lot of people, and I was a theater major in college, and I definitely got a lot of raised eyebrows. Like, what are you going to do with that in the future? But I think that an education in the arts is so important for so many reasons. What is your experience with getting this dual education in the arts as well as I guess English is an art, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you definitely get the raised eyebrows and the people being like, so where are you gonna waiter at? Where are you gonna
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Which, I get it. But I don't know. I think so much of our world revolves around art and media. Why not me be making it? Why can't I be the one making it? I mean, what is a world without art? Like there's no purpose, there's no purpose without expression, without creation, like why do all these crazy things in the world unless we're trying to connect over these shared art forms. Like I said, my concentration isn't actually acting. My concentration is playwriting. This is my first time on stage in a long time, but it's really such a wonderful experience because I get to be, because most of the time I'm on the other side of the table, but this time I'm on the stage, which is really, really cool because it's just allowed me for so much expressing. And this is my first year at UCSB. I'm a transfer student.
Okay.
So I'm still, trying to, get my feet in the ground kind of thing. But being in the show, I felt, because, you're sitting next to the same people every night for a few months, and you just get really, really close with them. My character's in the front row, and there's two other people who are in the front row, and we even have like a little secret group, I guess not secret anymore, but a little group chat just because of how much we've bonded up being like, oh my God, did you see this, blah, blah, blah. And just the connection I found with the people in it is very, very special to me. But I think art is so important because, like, I don't know, I don't think life has much of a purpose without it. I think it's so important that we keep creating and sharing stories. And I think that's why I love English so much too, just like the notion of sharing stories. And I don't know what the future lies, but I'm happy to be, maybe in a bit of a tougher spot financially, if that means I'm doing what I love.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of a choice that I think a lot of people make, which is, I'm doing what I love. I'm living the life of an artist, and not necessarily everybody who lives the life of an artist gets to, go to the Met Gala or whatever, So it's a really awesome thing to, know that young people are still in the trenches, making art, expressing themselves. That's fantastic. So let's see, the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee runs the 18th through the 21st, the 25th through the 27th, the 14th, the 21st, the 22nd, and the 28th. So you got a lot of dates to be able to see this show, and you can go to the UCSB theater site to be able to order your tickets. All right. Thank you so much, Ronnie, for being on. It was great to talk to you and great to hear about the upcoming show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Our next guest is a playwright who is also doing a show coming up at UCSB. This is Candrice Jones. How are you?
I'm well this morning. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for being on. As a person who is a writer, I find it so fascinating to talk to other playwrights. And the show that you have coming up is called The Medusa Thread.
Yes.
And this is a launch pad work, which means this is the first time it's being put up.
Yes, it's the very first time that anyone will see this show on its feet.
Including you, right?
Including me.
Yeah. It's got to be a fascinating experience. Well, let's take another quick break, but when we come back, I want to hear all about the process and what it's looking like and how it's going.
Great.
So we will be right back.
Very good. And I like that, the fact that you went ahead and took the break to keep people interested and teased, as it were. Also, Kendrice, is there any way for you to get closer to your microphone?
I don't have a microphone. I just have headphones.
Your microphone, I take it, is there a way for you to increase the volume in Zoom? Can you go into your audio settings and raise the volume of your microphone in Zoom?
Let's see. Hold on. Can you hear me better now?
Oh, much better. That's good.
Great.
Do you have other sounds going on in the background around you?
I'm actually at a Starbucks.
Okay. All right. That's fine. That's not a problem. As long as I can hear you better, you're better balanced with Maggie.
Great.
Perfect.
Maggie, say a few words if you would.
Sure, saying a few words. How's
Much
that?
better. Yeah, that's much better balance. Much better
Okay.
balance. Thank you, Kendrice.
No problem. So Maggie, what do you write?
Well, I write the theater reviews for the Independent in town, so I'm a a critic and a reviewer. I do previews, reviews. Yeah.
Okay. I look forward to you coming to the show.
Yeah, I'd love to come to the show. I've been told by Risa no reviews because it's a work in progress, but
It is a work in progress, definitely.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Stand by in 3, 2, 1. You're live.
hello and welcome back. This is Maggie Yates filling in for Elizabeth Stewart. Right now we are talking to Candrice Jones, whose new play, A Medusa Thread, is being produced at UCSB under the umbrella of Launchpad. And now the Launchpad is a specialty program that plays and workshops them into full production, so the playwright can see and hear and feel the piece in order to see what's working and what needs to be changed. And it's really an invaluable opportunity for writers. So, Candrice, tell me about this play and how you came up with this concept.
Oh, wow. So the play is pretty heavy. It's a pretty heavy subject. It's about consent. And I can't talk about the origin of the play without saying that the idea originally sprang from my own experience with childhood sexual assault, which was at the age of 3. And so when I began telling stories, when I began writing plays specifically, because I haven't always been a playwright, I had a life as a poet at one point. But I knew I wanted to tell a story about with sexual assault or consent at the center. So that's the wellspring of Medusa Thread. I really wanted to tell a story about consent, in which conversations about sexual assault and consent took place without staging the violence
Right.
of sexual assault on stage. And I really didn't want to write a revenge play. I wanted to write a play about transitioning. And I wanted to write a play about community, in which a community of people had conversations, real conversations about how the experience of assault transformed their lives. So yeah.
Okay. And now this play takes place in a sort of purgatorial hair salon, right?
Yeah, it's a fantastical play. It definitely takes place in the what I call the mall of purgatory.
Okay.
So all the characters in the play are transitioning into an afterlife. I chose the beauty shop setting because, first of all, one of the main characters, of course, is Medusa. She's not the central character, but she's one of the main characters. And when you think about Medusa, you think about the hair, which is one reason why I have the braids in my hair now. It's an ode to Medusa. And when I think about the beauty shop, especially in the Black community, it's one of the first places where I feel like whether you identify as male or female, the hair salons, the barbershops, those are the places where people first really experience agency. And our consent is taken very seriously because the stylist always or usually wants a new client, so they want to please whoever sits in their chair. The first time I ever went into a beauty shop, it was with my mom, with her beautician. And my mom had a conversation with the beautician saying, okay, this is what I want with Candrice's hair. And then the beautician turned to me, her name was Miss Page, and she was like, okay, Candrice, what do you want?
Wow, yes.
And so that experience, and especially with a young Black girl in hair, and it's kind of like I don't know if you guys have heard the conversations, but for various reasons, black hair is a thing that the community owns. It's not like it should be personal, but it's like the part of your body that the entire community owns and can freely come in on without any you know, without any discretion sometimes. So I feel like that experience for me was a very personal and intimate and just eye-opening experience. And I wanted to bring that into this world of this play, in which, you know, consent is talked about in such a dangerous or a terroristic way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an interesting place to set a play because I do feel like, as you said, the hair salon is a very intimate and personal experience. And when you think of transitioning between life and death, you know, everybody has their very personal idea of what that looks like.
Mhm.
So I think that it is a really interesting setting for this show.
Yeah.
Now, Medusa is often seen as not necessarily like a villain, but an obstacle to overcome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So why did you choose this particular character to play this role in this piece?
Yeah, and I think you're right. She's, you know, we know her, if you watch Clash of the Titans, we know her as the obstacle, one of the trials that Perseus had to overcome before he saved his mom. I can't remember his name, but saved his mom. And I chose her because first of all, I was very fascinated by her, the woman with snakes for hair, as a very young kid. But as I read, got older, and was extremely interested in Greek mythology, really fascinated by the stories of Greek mythology. And I, you know, knew about Medusa, the woman with snakes for hair, da 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 da. And eventually I came to know the story that Ovid, the Roman poet, wrote about Medusa in his collection of stories, Metamorphoses. And in his version of the Medusa tale, the reason why she has snakes for hair and such a hideous countenance and can turn individuals to stone is originated from her being raped by the god of the sea, Poseidon. Um, Ovid may have been, if not the first, one of the first individuals to write about Medusa in this way. So I thought about like gossip and all the gossip that happens around a sexual assault or a rape, and who takes what side, and you know who takes the side of the victim, and or who takes the side of the rapist, or the confusion of that, the messiness of those narratives. And I was like, okay, this conversation has been happening for a very long time in the same way. So I thought it would be interesting if I put Medusa in a timeless setting with characters who weren't necessarily from the time and place that she originated from. And so, yeah.
Interesting. It's a really interesting concept. I can't wait to see the show. Now, part of the interesting aspect of the Launchpad programs is that, as we discussed, you are seeing this up on its feet for the first time.
Yeah.
What is that experience like?
Yo, it's great. So it truly is. So when I first found out that the play was chosen to be in the reading series, Risa Brainin, who's the artistic director of the program, paired me with, I didn't know who was going to direct. She paired me with Shirley Jo Finney, who's directed here a few times, I believe. And Shirley Jo brought in all these designers, you know, this whole crew. And the thing about it is, I'm not a traditional playwright. I didn't have the traditional theater trajectory. So this is the first time that I've, you know, really worked with a team of designers. So this is really a masterclass in stagecraft for me. Knowing knowing how to put ebb and flow in a script and still keep it interesting, so that individuals can go backstage and maybe put a new wig on or change clothes or get ready to become an entire other character, because some of the actors in this play are playing 2 or 3 characters. So this has been a very important masterclass in playwriting for me. I'm so grateful for this experience. Yeah.
Yeah, the sort of physical quality of
Yeah.
putting entrances and exits and making sure that people have enough time. People, I think, don't think about that. It's so automatic when you see a play, but when you're writing a play, you have to put all that in. Well, have there been any big changes to the show?
Yes. Since I started working with the show last year to now, the story is basically still the same.
Mhm.
But because I'm working with the design team and because the story wasn't as strong as it needed to be, there have been a ton of changes.
Mm.
And as as a playwright, sometimes you bring parts back or you take them out. And I started working on the story in 2019, so things that existed way back then don't exist now, and it's just ever evolving process. Yeah.
And have there been any rewrites that the actors have needed to sort of change on a dime?
Yeah, so many. And so, working with such young actors, I'm really grateful for their patience and for their
Absolutely.
skill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's very clear that they've been prepared, for these processes. So, yeah, the students at UCSB have just been wonderful, really.
Well, fantastic. I love hearing about this piece, and we're going to go to another quick break. But when we come back, we will be with Candrice Jones talking about A Medusa Thread, which is coming up at UCSB.
Okay, you're clear. And let's see, 53. You'll have about 6.5 minutes to the end of the program.
Okay, great.
So,
All right, final segment, and you have 6 minutes. In 3, 2, 1, you're live.
Great, thanks. We are back with Candrice Jones. We are talking about her upcoming production, A Medusa Thread, which runs from May 16th through the 25th. So you have a ton of chances to see it. So Candrice, what do you hope that people take away from this show? What are you trying to impart?
yeah. I hope that people walk away from this show having conversations regarding consent, not just when it comes to intimate relationships, but also just in everyday life. Just think about, how an individual is greeted at the beauty shop, and the assumption is made that, a person's best interest is in mind. and we think about how we treat other bodies in spaces with us, whether, like I said, whether it's in a romantic or intimate way or not, because those conversations are very important, you know. So yeah, that's the major takeaway from this. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your piece. It sounds fascinating, and I hope that everybody gets out to see it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So in our last couple of minutes, I would like to talk about a show that I saw recently that I highly recommend, and it's down at the Geffen in Los Angeles. And this is, of course, Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. And I saw this a couple of weeks ago, but it's running through to the 29th. So you have another chance to see it. And this is starring Callista Flockhart and Zachary Quinto, whom you may know as Ally McBeal and Spock, but they are playing totally different roles at this point. And what a fascinating play. It's 3-hour-long segments of these people who drink too much and absolutely torture each other emotionally. But at the end, you really find that they have a love for each other, and that their relationship, while it's kind of screwed up, is still a really interesting and fascinating and chaotic sort of a situation. So this again is Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf with Callista Flockhart and Zachary Quinto. And that runs through the 29th down at the Geffen. And the Geffen is a wonderful playhouse down in LA. So if you're looking for a reason to get out of town and see some theater, I highly recommend it. It's the 60th anniversary, so it's absolutely, absolutely a must-see from my point of view. So that is Theater Corner with Maggie Yates. Again, for Elizabeth Stewart. Again, the shows that you get a chance to see this weekend coming up are Vincent, which is at Ensemble Theater Company, and that runs this Sunday, the 15th at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. And that is a one-person show about Vincent van Gogh. We spoke with Brian McDonald, the director of the show. We also have the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, which is a fun, delightful musical theater number. So you can see that at UCSB, the quirky kids in the bee and their interesting adult counterparts that put on this show, and a lot of really great musical numbers and a lot of fun. This is one where you better watch out because you might get pulled onto stage to be an audience interaction member and get to spell some words. So that is running starting next week and running the following week and a half. Finally, we talked to Candrice Jones, whose new play, A Medusa Thread, is being produced at UCSB under the Launchpad program. So this is the first time that anyone has ever seen this, including the playwright, and they are working on it as it's going up. It's Medusa Thread is about a purgatorial salon, and Medusa is the hairdresser, and they work on, as she said, issues of consent in intimate relationships, as well as just being bodies in the universe with other bodies in the universe. So that runs beginning the 16th and it runs through the 25th. So you have a number of opportunities to see that as well. You can get tickets for these at Ensemble's website, etcsb.org. And you can get tickets for the Spelling Bee and the Medusa Thread at the UCSB Theater website. You can order tickets there. And again, there are shows at 7 p.m. and a show at 1 p.m. So you have lots of chances to see it. Finally, and again, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf at the Geffen, absolutely worth seeing with Zachary Quinto and Callista Flockhart. It's been great talking theater with you guys this Friday morning, and we will be back again next week.
All right, you are clear. Fantastic job. I loved the diversity of the guests that you had. And it went very, very smoothly.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you so much for all your help.
Absolutely. I will be sending you, as I said, the podcast here shortly. I'll send it to Elizabeth as well, and then I'll be putting the video up on my my Google Drive and then I will put you in there and I'll send you a notification
Okay.
so that you can access that drive as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and we will talk to you soon, okay? Next,
Yeah,
if
next
not
week.
before, we'll talk to you next Friday.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.